2024 regular board meeting. We have 6 board members present. The first item on the agenda is item 2A, adoption of the agenda.
I move to adopt the agenda as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please cast your vote.
Casey, I vote yea, and Heather, she's logging in.
Motion passes 6-0.
Thank you. The next item is something I've been looking forward to, and that's item 3A, program highlight from Riverside Elementary.
We have a number of students here with Mrs. Emily Baker, principal of Riverside Elementary, to talk about what has been happening this year so far.
All right, we've practiced this a few times, so we are ready and excited. We are very thankful to be the first ones to be able to share the great news of the work that we've been doing. Looking forward to sharing some of the things that we have done to start our school year off on a positive note. I will share, unfortunately, one of our students is absent this evening, and so I'm going to go over his slide for him. His name was Mateo Mendez, but he was going to share with you a little bit about some of the family events that we started with. So he wanted to share with you that he attended Popsicles in the Park. Oh, he's here. Let me get Mateo up here. Come here, Mateo. Perfect timing. Are you ready? Okay, I got your little slip right here. Are you ready? Mm-hmm. All right, go for it, buddy.
My name is Mateo, and I am in Miss River's second grade class. I went to Popsicles in the Park. I came with another family. I played hide and seek with four of my friends. I had a blue popsicles, which is my favorite flavor. I also played on the monkey bars. My favorite part was doing flips on the monkey bars with my friends.
So it's fun to see. I let the kids tell me what they want to talk about. I kind of give them the topic, and he was very excited to share about all the fun things that he did while he was at the park. So it's great to see them interacting with their peers while we were able to visit with families. So very excited about that. So we will continue on, and we're going to have Tinsley Johnson talk about some team building activities.
My name is Tinsley Johnson, and I'm a 5th grader in Miss Smith Heisler's class. At the beginning of the year, we worked on team building activities. We did ball run construction and ball launchers. For the ball run, we had to use paper and try to make a ramp so the ball would roll down it. We wanted to be the slowest ball and could only use paper, tape, and scissors to make it. Ball launchers were similar, but we could use plastic cups, spoons, duct tape, and popsicle sticks. The goal was to catapult an item into a created catcher, such as a box or cup, and get your ball to go the furthest. Team building is important because it teaches you to work with others and try their ideas. It also helps you be a good sport. My favorite team building activity was the ball launcher because it was very fun to make.
We did bring our own step stool tonight. All right, go for it, go.
My name is Sonia. I am in Miss Williams' first grade class. Miss Williams greets us at the door. I always do a hug and say good morning. I hope my friends remember to be quiet. The social contract tells us to be responsible. At the end of the day, we have a saying, I am great, I am smart, I am love.
Good job. All right, step 2.
My name is Demi Davis, and I'm in Miss Hauser's 4th grade class. Good things is when you share something that you have done or are going to do that is good. An example might be that I went to Claire's this weekend. I like good things because I like to know what other people are doing and what they think is fun. Each month we have an assembly where we have a word of the month. Each teacher can nominate a few students to get an award. A sticker and their picture taken for receiving a nomination. Our word this month is empathy.
One thing I would encourage everyone to do is our first assembly for CKH is tomorrow, where we will be recognizing our character trait nominees for empathy. So we will have those posted on social media for everybody to see. All right. Next we have Anthony, and he is going to talk to us about PBIS.
My name is Anthony, and I'm in Miss Hart's 3rd grade class. We have 3 rules at Riverside. They are safe, respectful, and responsible. We talk about our rules at the assembly, and we practice them. If we follow the rules, we get PBIS points. PBIS points are used to buy things at the PBIS store. We can buy things like ice cream, trips to the park, notebooks, and erasers, and raffles. For the raffles, students can go fishing, see zoo animals, write with chalk. We have PBIS to make school safe and fun.
One of the things for PBIS this year that we are really working on is increasing our interaction with the community. So coming up here in the middle of October, we will have the zoo education coming in. We will also have the Arts Center, working with SALT, so the student athletes from the high school. In addition to that, we are looking to have Payrock come in, working with Hispanics of Today and Tomorrow to come in and provide activities and events that kids can purchase with their points that they have earned through positive behavior. So very excited about the community connections that we're building in that area.
My name is Valerie, and I'm in Miss Johnson's kindergarten class. My favorite thing about school is when we paint color at our class, and we go to recess, and I love Miss Johnson because she gives me big hugs, and she is kind and respectful.
My name is Leo Pavlik, and I am in Mr. Smith's 5th grade classroom. Mr. Smith is the best teacher because he helped me advance in school. The first reason is because he is kind, funny, and most of all, a very good teacher. The second reason is he helped the entire class advance in all subjects by helping us understand it. The third and final reason is last year when I was in 4th grade, I got to go to his advanced math class, and he helped me feel welcome. That is why Mr. Smith is the best teacher.
So these are just a few of the highlights of the many things that we have going on at Riverside. So it has been an excellent start to the year. Very excited about the positivity and connections that we are making between staff and students, and then also being very purposeful about celebrating staff in many ways. So lots of affirmations. We put those in our weekly memos that go out to everybody so everybody can celebrate one another as well. So we thank you for letting us come and share a little bit about what is happening at Riverside.
Thank you so much for coming tonight. This was like the best part of my day, for sure. So everyone did such a great job. Are there any comments or questions?
I do also want to commend you, Emily, and your whole team and all your students, because I know this year you all are all working on making self-care and family time a priority for yourselves. And right, if your cup's not full, then it's a little harder to do a great job. So I'm really proud of you for doing that.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Item 3B, public comment. Casey, do we have any public comment this evening?
We do not.
Okay, as a reminder, anyone wishing to provide public comments should complete the request to submit comments form, which is available on our website. The form will need to be completed by 1 p.m. on Wednesdays, the day of the board meetings. Item 4A, consent agenda. The items listed on the consent agenda are considered by the Board of Education to be routine business items. Approval of the items may be made by a single motion, second, and majority vote with no separate discussion of any item listed. Should a member of the board desire to discuss any item at his or her request, it will be removed from the consent agenda and considered separately. What are the wishes of the board?
I move that we adopt the consent agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please cast your vote.
Motion passes 6-0.
Thank you, and I was so happy to see so many new classified staff joining us, and so I just want to welcome them all to the school district and show appreciation to the staff for all you're doing to recruit folks to the district. The next item is item 6A, instructional protocol presentation.
We have a number of people, a number of staff members from different levels, and so Dr. Erica Mickelson, Director of Teaching and Learning, will introduce each person.
Yes, thank you for having us this evening. Last time we had our board meeting, we talked about SIOP and the exciting things that are happening with that coming back to the district. And now I'm here to talk about the instructional protocol. And I'll introduce everybody behind me in just a little bit after we talk about just what an instructional protocol is. So the first thing, our board goals, we want to make sure that we have that improved academic achievement for all students, and then providing instructional resources and professional development to meet the ever-changing needs of our diverse students as well. So making sure that those two are the area, when we talk about this in particular, that we are really focusing on. Last year, when we were in preparation and really having those first stage conversations about how is SIOP going to look when we do bring it back and what is that going to be, we wanted to be very mindful of the fact that it's coming back. So there were some comments made of, we want staff to know that we're bringing this back and we really need it to stay. We really want to have that focus be on SIOP when we need those instructional protocols or instructional strategies there. We also don't want staff to think that we are negating CKH or that we don't think that CKH or Lit First has a place in instruction. So one of the things that we talked about during the meetings with our administration team was really, how can we show this in a way that can really, we can see it. You can visually see how everything just fits. And so a protocol is a framework that outlines essential practices to improve student learning and ensure instructional consistency. So when we look at that, we really wanted to pretty much just create coherence and what that looks like across the board. So when you think of it, Lit First is really that's in the instructional pieces, and then we have the SIOP pieces, and then we also have the CKH pieces. And so we really wanted to show that it does go hand in hand and that everything really does just fold so nicely together. And we really aren't saying this is one more thing. We are saying this is something that is already in place. And we really want to make sure that you're focused on those things. And when we also talk about the walkthrough tool pieces, the things that you see on this protocol are also things that are embedded in that walkthrough tool. So I did ask for some help with this because I want to make sure you hear not only from me but from others that are out there in the classrooms. So we have Erica Fianu and one of our instructional coaches at the elementary level. We have Mrs. Joy McGee. She is our Jones Early Childhood Development Principal. And then we also have Abby Littrell, and she is our middle school instructional coach as well. So they are going to bring different perspectives. And Casey, you can move to the next slide. And you can see the protocol itself, and then they're just going to explain how it lends itself to each level.
Good evening. As an instructional leader at Jones,
One of the things that SIOP has taught us this year is the importance of visual supports and structures for all learners. And we talk a lot at Jones about how we as adults are also learners, and we need to be learning and showing our students that we're learning and talking about the things that we're learning. So this really does, again, fit nicely as a visual structure and support that we can have with our staff to use for professional development. This helps me to be mindful about making those connections and making sure that I'm taking the time to relate to teachers and have them have conversations about how these things fit together in their classrooms and how they're utilizing all of these tools in a way that is connected and sometimes interchangeable. It also helps me as an instructional leader when I'm having evaluation and observation conversations with teachers. It helps me to be able to pull in specific pieces and again reference it and have a reminder. Remember, this is our protocol, this is our framework. Let's talk about these pieces that I saw today or pieces that I'm consistently not seeing, and how do we get that to be evident in your classroom. And as Dr. Mickelson referenced, our walkthrough tool is providing really good data about the pieces that we're seeing in structures in our classrooms. And so that allows us to have informed decision-making about the professional development that we bring back to our buildings and that we use to support and encourage our staff, and empowers the conversations that they're having together with each other. At the SIOP training at Jones, multiple times that day, staff were like, this is like CKH and this is like Literacy First, and they were already making those connections. And so this was just a way to cement that and make it be very concise and again, just intentional so that it was easy to reference and easy to visually see where it all connects, and help us when sometimes we lack a visual or a structure, we forget to be intentional. So this helps us have that intentionality piece.
Hello, as Erica said, I am Erica Fianu. I am an elementary instructional coach, and I taught in the classrooms at Emporia from 2014 to 2020, the fall of 2020. 2020. When Erica asked me to do this, I didn't want to put my 2 cents in it, so I spoke to teachers and teachers. And I did ask Jamie Dakin as well, because I had her ear today. But what they really like is that it wasn't one more thing, because teachers feel like there's always one more thing or a new thing. And this really cemented how everything we're already doing is good, but it's adding a little bit more. And what a lot of my teachers said was the engage and the launch addresses things that, or concepts or relationships that maybe Lit First structure did not. And that is engage. They are meeting the students at the door. They are doing social emotional check-ins during that engage part. They are doing those good things from CKH. And then building that background knowledge, especially for our English language learners. That's very important that they build that background knowledge before moving on. And then the launch, at Walnut, we do a lot of well wishes. I wish you well, and just kind of do a mindfulness at the end. And that really sends them off in a positive way. My last couple of years in the classroom, I was using this, and I would do like inspirational quotes. I had 5th graders, or funny quotes like, be like cheese and bacon, because everybody likes cheese and bacon, and then the kids started making they wanted to find their launches or write their own launches, and so they took ownership over that. And without that engage and without that launch and building that relationships with the kids, the middle part, even it's not going to happen, or it's not going to be effective, because we have a lot of relationships that need to be built with some kids that are hurting. And if you don't build that relationship, they're not going to listen to you or take you seriously. So that was the main thing that the teachers said about this protocol, is it really teaches them or makes them intentional about building that relationship. Our teachers are wonderful anyway, so they already are building that relationship. But it's a routine way, and the kids like that routine, and it brings the kids in also, and they have that ownership of it. I'm trying not to ramble, I'm sorry, because there's a lot of good things to this. It just gives them a structure that we're already doing, and it gives that best practices for all students. That's what SIOP says, it's best practices for all students. And so it just ties it all together and helps the teachers keep it all organized.
I'm Abby Latrell. I am an instructional coach at the middle school. And I think this framework, especially at the secondary level, our middle school and our high school, it's done a really great job at helping us really with inclusion with our multilingual learners. Our students, they're jumping from class to class constantly. And so this framework has really given us support to help make sure that our multilingual learners are included into the general education classroom and that they're learning with their peers of, varying English abilities. And so that's been something really awesome at the middle school and high school level. It's given that support for our teachers. And in addition, it has, I think, really encouraged our staff to scaffold and to differentiate for not only all of our students, but especially our multilingual learners, because, ultimately we want all of our students to be successful, in that differentiation and that scaffolding that SIOP really encourages is really helpful for making sure that our multilingual learners are really successful in all of our classrooms. And another really cool thing about the way that we're implementing this framework is we have had teacher leaders. And so I know at the middle school, we had 3 teacher leaders who attended the training this summer. And I know at the high school, they had a couple teacher leaders as well. And so the really cool thing is it's given our staff an opportunity to lead our teachers, which is really cool. And in addition, it really gives the rest of our staff a great resource. These are the people that their peers that they work with every day. And so if they're struggling with the implementation or if they have questions, they have that resource to go to. And also, it just helps us, it gives us insight into how SIOP can truly be applicable in our classrooms and how we can best integrate it into our classrooms. Because ultimately, the teachers are going to be the ones that are implementing it with the kids. And so giving teachers kind of a voice and a part of developing that professional development for the rest of our staff to make sure it's as applicable as possible has been a really awesome thing to see. And then also kind of from the lens of an instructional coach, this framework has given us, another resource to help support our staff when they're trying to support their multilingual learners. And it really, as everyone talked about, it really integrates well with all of our other initiatives, our Lit First, our CKH. So it doesn't really add another thing to teachers' plates, which I think is really important. And then just kind of also, as everyone said, it just really brings those best practices to light, and it lets us kind of refocus on, not only what helps all of our students or just our multilingual learners, but also helps all of our students. So it's been really awesome, especially at the middle school and the high school.
So when we think about next steps, we will ensure that we provide that training for all staff in every area. We have our 2-year process for getting everyone trained with SIOP, and then we are continuing that process with Capturing Kids' Hearts. And then Lit First is something that we we always bring back, especially for our new teachers at that new teacher training. What is Lit First? What is that structure? What does that look like in instruction? And then we will make sure we engage instructional coaches, our ESL staff, administrators, and then the teaching and learning department to offer additional resources. So what do we need to fill in the gaps? Where are the gaps and how can we fill those in? What additional resources do we need to look at? And just having that open conversation and dialogue with those staff members to see what additional things we need. And then making sure that we are just continuing to look at that walkthrough tool, and if we need to make edits or revise those, that we have that discussion, that continuing discussion. Principals have been in, administrators have been in, getting their times together when they are doing that cross collaboration, and I'm already hearing great feedback. I'm hearing some things that we may need to fine tune or tweak, but that's okay, because that's all a part of the process, and I'm excited that they're getting in and they're having those instructional leader conversations with each other, and so that's something that we will talk about during DLT and then bring back to you as the year goes to tell you about how that walkthrough tool is going. Questions?
Thank you so much. What questions?
was just a really good follow-up from last meeting. Really appreciated the continuity.
Yep, and I loved seeing the chart for me on slide 3. Like, as soon as I saw that, it was just an aha moment. I'm like, okay, I get it all now. So
Good.
I really appreciated
We
seeing
thought
that.
it might have been a little too much to do with the last meeting with all of it, and so it worked out to be a good follow-up for this.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
After we had the kids, I feel like now I have to applaud everyone who comes up. Yeah, I know, right? Okay, so next item on the agenda is item 7A, the Walnut Elementary boiler repair.
Okay, we have Mr. Corey Nicolette, Director of Maintenance and Grounds, here to talk about a boiler. And I'm sure he's going to want some applause, even if it's not good news, so.
Thank you, thank you. Do it before, yeah, that's best. So about 6 months ago, we started the big book I made of the infrastructure. Part of that was the boilers. We were going to do minor and major repairs on those and get them all up to speed. That overall went well until we got to Walnut. We found those boilers were in a lot worse condition than we had hoped. When they got to digging into them, it became apparent real quick that putting money into them was not what we wanted to do. Ideally, we would be asking for 2 boilers today. There's 2 that run that facility, a primary and a secondary that kicks in when necessary. So just when you get those week of negative temperatures, the second one kicks in. Most of the time it's a one system. So we look at our timeline. We would like to ask for 2 new ones, but that puts us into January. And we really don't have a viable option between now and January for those cold days. So instead of asking for 2 new ones, we're asking for 1 new one because the boilers are, I think, 28 years old, and the flame boxes, I think, are just over 30 years old, somewhere around there. So another one of those outdated systems that needs updated. But with the timeline we've got, what we're looking at is taking the 2 boilers, which are mechanically identical, taking them both down, using the best parts from both of them to rebuild one, and then we'll use that as the primary until January, get the new one in. Once the new one's put in, that will become the primary and the rebuild will become the secondary. So we hope to get a lot more life than a typical rebuild would out of using it so sparsely compared to the new one, which will be under warranty and have a primary focus. We've talked to Cruz about this, and they provided us a tips bid. They're who we had approved for the going through it initially, so they've already been in and have dealt with these boilers. Their timeline is to get started as quickly as we can through the paperwork to get the first one rebuilt out of the 2, so that we have that for, first freeze is scheduled for, I think, 2 or 3 weeks from now if you ask the weather people. So we're getting to where we really need to get this pushed through, and I can entertain any questions, but it looks like the bid came out at $198,604,000, and that is inclusive of the new one and the rebuild, and then hauling everything off. There's a lot of labor involved in this bid that no matter what we do, the smallest piece that they can get the boilers down to is around 600 pounds. And at Walnut Elementary, if you recall, on the east side of the building, you go down concrete stairs through a single width door and then back down some steel stairs, or concrete stairs on the inside is what they have to get all this equipment and tooling around. And so that added a lot to our cost over somewhere where we would have a simple installation. This is a lot more complex. The other side of it is we're trying to do it without cutting off any school days or having to cut off any water or having freezing issues.
Great, thank you. Do we have any questions? I do appreciate your resourcefulness and, trying to make one whole so we don't have a gap. I really appreciate that.
2 good things is little kids generate a lot of heat because they move around all the time, so we got that going for us. And since we have our high wind shelter, if something happened, we're not going to get in the way of boiler replacement. Because if you remember, before we had that was a shelter. for kids to go down into that scary boiler room. And that's not a thing anymore. So at least we won't have to be negotiating, factoring that into the improvement. But if nobody else has any questions for Corey, let me see here. I think the motion's a little bit different. I move to approve the walnut boiler replacement as submitted.
A second.
We have a motion and a second. Please cast your vote.
Motion passes 6-0.
Thank
Great.
you. We'll get it done.
Thank you so much. The next item is item 7B, insurance renewal for 2025.
Right. Have Mrs. Pam Stranathan, Assistant Superintendent of Business Operations, and then we've also been working with Miss Lisa Clark from IMA Group LLC.
Yeah, so the day we've waited for, right? So the end results are here. Pretty excited about, we've had 2 meetings with the committee, one that was face-to-face and then one that was virtual in reference to the recommendations that have come back from IMA and to share with the committee. And then the committee has looked at it twice and have been very excited about, I think the best thing that has come out of this is IMA. I'm saying that out loud because they have done incredible things with looking at everything they could for us, and then even going back and continually having conversations and not just leaving it with what was first said to them. So greatly appreciate that. Lisa and Nick and Andy are all here, and I think Nick wanted to say something first. Is that correct? Or so wanted to speak a little bit. Just want to appreciate them. We're going to go through, so the PowerPoint that Lisa has put together for board members that were on the committee to go into great detail of everything with that, it's a little over an hour. She has condensed that down based off of some recommendations that came back from the committee for the board. The document you have in front of you right now it's big, so that we could keep things on single pages and not have multiple pages to try to compare. So when you're looking at some of the vendors and stuff that they provided, you can look at that. And then Lisa will go through that and talk about it. And then we've got a timeline in there. We're not going to go into the details in the back of it that talk about the resources. They have phenomenal resources from Benefits Direct that will do our onboarding for all of our employees. And then there are so many educational materials, and there's great links there to look at. And if you need more information on that, I can either have Lisa come back at another meeting, or if we have time and you want to hear more about it, we can continue on with that. So I'm going to turn it over to Nick. I'll stay up here too if there's any questions. We do have some committee members back here that have shown up, so excited. We asked everybody to come, but told them it was not a requirement, but so left that. So I'm turning over to Nick, and I'm going to stop talking.
Good evening, everyone. Greatly appreciate the support that you all have given IMA to help through this process. We started working with you about 6 months ago, and we knew the challenge ahead of us was to try to control the cost and provide the best cost for the insurance. Team that we have here in the committee was very helpful in this process. When we find this works well with our educational groups, the committee, in addition to Pam, Kate, and Melissa, part of the group, has been phenomenal. And so through that process and the support from leadership, it's worked out really well. There's been a lot of conversations. I know Pam and Lisa and Kate have spent a substantial amount of time really looking at this to help drive down the costs as much as we can and provide affordable health care for all the teachers and staff. So just thank you for the opportunity, and we'll go through this. Any questions that you have, please let us know.
I'm going to move over so I'm not right directly behind her.
So as shared, the presentation is long. I'm going to try to get through everything between 12 and 15 minutes. So we'll walk through, and then any questions that you have, we can take at the end. Before I start, though, I do want to echo what Nick said. What made this work so well was your committee and putting it together, and the ability to visit at the beginning to see what was important to them, and then to revisit that, because that can change during that process. So I appreciate the time and attention they gave to each of those details. It did make a big difference. So we'll start, you see on this first slide, this is a representation of your IMA team. There are many, many more of our colleagues who represent your team, But if we want to go to the next slide, we'll just jump right in. So we refer to this as a dashboard, and it's a comparison of the prior year and the current year to date. Medical loss ratio. Medical loss ratio is simply a comparison of the premium that is paid for your plan versus the claims that are paid out. So if you look to the upper right column, you see the year-to-date claims for 2024 and the year-to-date premium for that same period, along with the total number, the average number of employees per month. If you look to right below the barometer, you see that the current loss ratio for 2024 is 96%. So it means of 96% of the premium paid, 96% was paid out in, 96% of premium was paid back out in, I can't say it, I'll say it again. Of the 100% premium paid, 96% was paid back out in claims. For the prior year, that loss ratio was 118.3%, so there is a slight improvement. If you go to the next page, you have a little bit more of a granular view, and it shows you specifically then what the rolling 12 was. So a different view, but in the highlighted corner at the lower right, you see even for that period, the medical loss ratio was 109.3%, excuse me. You can see as you look across the page, you've got the month, the number of enrolled, you see the premium, the medical claims broken down by medical and pharmacy. It gives you a granular view all the way over to the right-hand side, which ends at the medical loss ratio, okay? So we're going to go through the next couple of slides, just more data that you guys can look at later. But as a reminder, when we're visiting with the insurance carriers, we start with what's called the demographic. What is the demographic of your group? How many males, how many females, how many in the different age categories? They then look at your zip code and the cost for care in those areas. From there, we then look at the claims information, which makes those first 2 pages important. You now are looking at the medical marketing summary. This gives you, on the left-hand side, a summary of the carriers that we went to. So obviously, we have the renewal from Blue Cross. We then also went to United Healthcare, Aetna, and Cigna. United Healthcare did respond, but their required increase is pretty substantial at the 21.4%. Cigna and Aetna declined to quote due to not being competitive, so that takes us back up to the top of the page. When we received the initial renewal, they were calling for 17.4%, which equated to an increase of $918,228 based on the current enrollment. Through extensive negotiation, through uncovering areas that costs could be saved in the renewal projection calculation, we were able to get a reduction to 6.9%. So the overall increase with that negotiation brings that down to $362,124 annually, again, based on current enrollment. We did look at additional options that were expressed by the committee. In looking at those options, it didn't generate enough premium savings to make that change. Therefore, the highlighted recommendation from the committee is that we continue with no changes with the 6.9% increase. Okay? Let's go next then to, we can go to that next page, the one that has so many numbers on it is intended for you later if you want to look at something more granularly.
I'm going to interrupt you early just
Sure.
because I want to ask it while it's still kind of pertinent.
Sure.
When you say Aetna and Cigna declined to quote not competitive, does that mean they felt that our insurance pool was not competitive, or that they would not be able to give a competitive quote, so didn't bother?
Great question. Their offer was not going to be competitive based on the current renewal. Actually, that's not even true. Based on what the current numbers, the current plan, and the claim information, we did not share the renewal with them. So they were basing it on their own merit, using your current rates and your claim utilization. And that's important. Okay? The next page then, as I mentioned, we will look at this one. This is the premium contribution strategy. So what happens with this change? When you look on the left-hand side, you see the 2024 rates, and then in the gray banner, you see each plan. So you see the $0 deductible, the $2,000 deductible, and the $6,350 deductible. And the highlighted column is what employees are currently contributing. So you see the enrollment, the premium, the employee contribution, and the district's contribution immediately to the right. If you go to the right side of the slide or the page, you see the same thing for 2025. On the very last column on the right-hand side, you see the monthly impact to employees. So if you then look to the bottom of the page, you see the annual percent of change is 6.9% in total, 4.3% to employees, and 8.3% to the district. You also then see the dollar changes to that as well. $81,252 to the employee, and the remaining $280,872 to the district. Okay? The next page was what I was referring to earlier, is the one that is more granular and has more detail. We'll go through everything, and then I'll open up at the end for any questions. So similar process for the dental. You see your Blue Cross options at the top. We have also Delta Dental and MetLife. MetLife didn't respond. That's going to be in the same expectation. They didn't feel they could provide a competitive proposal. If you look back at the top, you have your current plan from Blue Cross and the renewal, which indicated a 1.8% reduction. So if we made no changes, kept the plan as it was, it would be a reduction of 1.8. We looked at multiple options. There were several requests from the committee. The one that was decided is the one that is highlighted, which is to keep the plan the same and add ortho for dependent children up to age 21. That change increases the premium 1.8%. If you then look at the next page, you see the same thing, the premium contribution strategy. You see the differences comparing 24 and 25, and then the impact to the payroll on the far right side. Same information at the bottom. You see the impact financially and from a percentage standpoint to both the employee and to the district. Okay, backup information behind that. I'm trying to stay true to my 12 to 15 minutes. So, and then for the vision is illustrated a little bit differently in that you currently are with Superior, and we didn't represent the district for Superior, so you don't have an enrollment count here, but we were able to go back and negotiate with Superior for some better options. For your vision, you currently have, the two things that we focus on are the frequency and the allowance. Your frequency means you have an exam every 12 months, you can get your lenses every 12 months, and currently your frames are every 24 with a $100 allowance, which is not probably enough. So we went back to Superior and asked them to provide options. You see here that if you stayed the same, they initially came out with a renewal of no change. You're in the middle of a 3-year rate guarantee, that we were able to negotiate the current down to a negative 13%. We also asked for them to provide alternate options that increased the allowance and changed the frequency from 12-12-24 to 12-12-12. You see that in doing that, the base plan is still less than what the current plan is. So really great changes on the vision plan. Employees and staff will now have the option to choose the base, which again is the 12-12-12 up to $150 allowance, or the buy-up, which is up to a $200 allowance. So super happy with that. Superior also continued with that remaining 2-year rate guarantee, so you'll have that. VSP, Assurancy, Vision Care Direct, and IMED also proposed coverage, but this was your better option and the one chosen by the committee. Next page is more granular information, and then you'll see what the committee's recommendations are. We've already talked about that, but you see just a restatement of what that looks like financially and from a percentage standpoint for your medical, your dental, and for your vision. The next page is the timeline for implementation. Does anyone have any questions regarding the benefits or the renewal action?
Jeremy and Leslie, as the board members on the insurance committee, do either of you have anything to add?
I know we're going to talk about it a million times, but the committee just worked so hard. The input was so great. Leslie showed up too, so we've got even a few more members here. Their perspective, what they felt was important, everybody was able to get on board. We were all happy that no one wants an increase at all, but 6.9 compared to 17, and almost everyone's at least 10 this year. So we felt fortunate that we ended up at the 6.9. This was where everyone landed and everyone felt pretty comfortable.
Yeah, and I just pretty much echo what Leslie has to say. I don't think there was anyone who was really firmly against the recommendations that came out. It was pretty much unanimity across the board. So I feel pretty satisfied with the collaboration. Don't know that I'm satisfied that we have to pay more, but that's something I've learned now in my time on the board, is that insurance typically tends to go up, and I have thoughts about that, but I'll save them for later.
I'd just add to that, and I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but for going forward, it's a focus on education, communication, and empowerment. And that's really where we're focused to try to address those additional increases. We have great tools and the committee's engaged. We'll just continue that effort to improve. Okay, if we're good, then I'll go to the timeline. So addressing the timeline, you see in red at the top, the new plan year starts January 1. From there, we've worked backward, which is a little bit reverse of what we usually see in a timeline. But in order to meet that January 1 start date, we have to look then at the payroll post date, which is December the 12th, or 2nd, excuse me. We need to, in order to meet that, we have to start open enrollment on the 21st of October. So you then see what needs to happen beneath that in order to meet that date. We will immediately start once we have the approval from the district to make sure that we meet those deadlines. But it's somewhat tight, it's workable, but we do need to stay as close to these as we can, mostly for that payroll post date, to be able to accommodate. Do you want to talk to the timeline? Do you want me to take questions for the timeline? Do you guys have any questions on the timeline? No? Okay. And then behind that, you see the IMA resources, which I've already addressed. So I don't know how close I got to the 12 to 15, but I'm hoping it's close.
I think it was less than 12. One of the things to share too, that Benefits Direct is part of IMA. They collaborate with them and work with them, and that's who's going to do all of our onboarding. These we can't bring, or we will bring and share with you at some point, but we're still in negotiation on things like life insurance, things that American Fidelity has provided for the district. One of the things I can share with you from my standpoint of evaluating and looking at everything, really, we've never really looked anywhere else in the district for things outside of American Fidelity for a long, long time. So one of the things, initially, we were not going to do anything with that yet, but then when IMA came back and shared, AmeriLife was sharing, I mean, there's some big benefits that can come out of that for employees. And some of those things include savings anywhere from a 5% up to a 42%, which with the difference that's happening with their insurance, hopefully that'll put money back in their pocket. The other thing is being able to offer plans and things that we don't have and give that more options to the employee. Even, and I shared this with the committee, pet insurance was one of the things too that's out there, which we kind of chuckle about, but there, people on the committee, there were people that have that. So, it's just opening up and looking at a bigger global view instead of keeping it like we have so tight. And so it's really exciting to have those options and to know that they're helping us, AmeriLife's helping us, and Benefits Direct, everybody's working to get things done. And even though IMA is a big company, it has felt like they're here at the district, like we have an office space for them. So very appreciative of that and having that collaboration with them. So I'm excited. But that's all I have. So if there's questions, it's now the board, my understanding in the past, you've had 2 readings before in reference to this, but that's your call. If we have a second reference or a read, I'm sorry, not reference, we would have to then look at some things moving forward with our timeline. So one of the things that kind of pushed this really tight, just so everybody knows, it wasn't anybody's delay, and the people that were on the committee, remember we were looking at where we were trending, and we needed it to trend down so that when they sent that out to vendors, they weren't going to say, well, they're trending up, so we're going to make a projection that they're just going to keep trending, which paid off in the long run. It kept us from being in those double digits. So because we did have a good month where our loss was down instead of trending the other way. So any questions for anybody?
I will add one thing we really did talk about, and Lisa and Nick both mentioned the education, is that I know myself as a consumer and someone who has insurance that I know Blue Cross Blue Shield sends me stuff all the time and I don't open it. It's just not, I already know what I'm paying, right? Like, so I guess I just figure, well, this is what it is. But there are so many things that I could be doing as a consumer and that our employees can be doing that could contribute us contribute to getting lower rates next year, or lower premiums. So it's just about education and making people want to make that effort, because I know when I go home, I'm like, whatever, Blue Cross, why did you mail this to me? I thought I signed up for paperless. But yeah, so anyway, that was something we really talked about. And so maybe this year we can do whatever we can to get that across to people.
I really appreciate on like the dental and the vision side that you can see that the committee just sort of really, was thoughtful about which plan to select and which one to recommend to us for passage, because it's so easy to just like look at that lowest number possible. But I mean, the numbers are still really low and one's still a reduction. But it also just shows you how seriously they take their work. Are there any questions, comments? This is an action item. We can also choose to table it if we want. But I just want to, what are the wishes of the board on how you'd like to proceed?
I don't think it's necessary to table this. I mean, I think the numbers are what they are, and if we set this aside and bring it back, we're going to be still dealing with the same beautiful presentation. Thank you, IMA. I'm comfortable approving this. I think the entirety of the time I've been on the board now, which is probably about maybe a term and a half. I don't think I've ever seen the insurance rates go down. I've only ever seen them go up. To my memory, though, this is the lowest they've gone up, and I do attribute that to IMA's negotiations and advocacy for us, and I want to recognize that. But there was some discussion during the Health Insurance Committee about the ability of the school district itself to put more money on the premiums, right, to lower the amount coming out of our employees' pockets. And I just want to reiterate to folks who have that concern or that criticism that what we pay for insurance is negotiated through IBB. So it is something that's not a thing that we can just unilaterally do. I've actually I've said before at previous meetings and in other settings too that I wouldn't mind 1 year perhaps not doing typical raise increases. Hopefully that doesn't come back to bite me, and just spreading that money around on the health insurance premium to try to make our insurance pool a little bit more competitive for people who are looking at joining it. Because at the end of the day, the only way you get these numbers down is less claims, less people making really high claims, and then getting people into your insurance pool who don't use more than they pay in. And so, I think in the insurance industry, there's that term death spiral, right, where the insurance pool becomes so expensive that no one gets in it, and then the only people that stay in it are the ones that have no other option, and then it just becomes so expensive that it becomes a death spiral. And I don't think we're in death spiral territory, but it does frustrate me that we don't just have the ability to perhaps unilaterally put more money on that because it's negotiated. So I want people, especially staff who have that criticism, to remember that you need to talk to your ENEA reps about the importance of that particular issue, because when they're advocating at the table, we have to, in that interest-based bargaining, meet them halfway. And if they're not advocating for more money to be on the insurance premium, you're probably not going to end up getting that. And so I think that's something important for folks to remember, and to be engaged with your union and talk to your rep about the things that are important to you.
I'm okay with motioning. Are you on for it? Or you motion, I'll second.
Okay. I move to approve the insurance renewal recommendation from the Health Insurance Committee to continue the Blue Cross Blue Shield for medical with the IMA negotiated changes, Delta or Dental Alternate 2 and Superior Vision Alternate Plan with changes as submitted.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please cast your vote.
Motion passes 6-0.
Thank you. I know the district and all the employees greatly appreciate that.
Well,
Thank
thanks.
you.
We appreciate your work, and especially the work of the committee. Thank you. They get an applause. The next item on the agenda is item 8A, Board Policy Updates, first reading.
Mrs. Pam Stranathan, Assistant Superintendent of Business Operations, will help present, and Mrs. Casey Woods, Board Clerk, is also here to help answer questions.
We're excited about these too. So all the policies that have come through this time, you'll see on there several that were retired, and then we have some that were brought into play. There were some that we had pulled off because GAT is the new one that is coming on board that is for staff use of communication devices, and that is the umbrella one that then umbrellas over the IIBG and the IIBGC. So those changes, does anybody have any questions on that one? And then throughout there, you'll see several changes within language that has just been, we needed to either add or change, or some of the language it had been, and some of the dates you'll see down at the bottom. We're trying to get the policies to match, so it shows all of the updates that KSB does at the bottom, and then all of the updates that occurs with the board, so that there's a correlation there, so that it will help us as a district to keep those rolling ahead, or when we get them and then move ahead. So hopefully once we finish out all of these, then we'll be able to come back and just do the approvals like we do twice a year when we get those around December and then in the summer, and not have so many popping up throughout. So is there any of these that you have a question on?
I don't know if Casey has anything to add as being part of that committee. I know Lillian's normally there too, but she's not with us tonight, so.
I don't have anything to add. I think it's pretty clear.
And I want to say thank you to Casey, because she's done a nice job on putting these, trying to get them on one page and putting the changes in green so you can see the past and the present, and not sometimes fighting through red line to me is a little bit crazy making when you're trying to just look at what the difference was. So what she's done with these has been great.
And the committee agreed. It seems like we were all on board. There
Yeah.
wasn't a lot of discussion that they wanted to change, so.
I had a question, and all these are fine, but when KSB sends you recommendations, do they tell you why they're making recommending those changes?
Yeah, you want to share what document you have that they sent to you? It's really nice how it compares that.
Yeah, on the January and June, they give a really nice description. On the policy light, we got a few notes here and there. It wasn't as detailed, and some of these are still from the policy light update, so I don't have them in detail. Usually, when we do the June and December ones, I will put the explanations on there for you.
I don't have a problem with these, but I just wondered, because sometimes you may see something that's kind of like, well, why are they recommending that particular change? So,
Is it possible that we could get that guidance for board members when KSB sends that out, or is that considered something that wouldn't be able to be put into?
Are you talking the December and June?
I mean, whenever we get it going forward, so that
Oh.
we can see that KSB says, hey, this is model policy, here's what we're suggesting to change, and here's why.
Yeah, those documents, you should.
Are you wanting it before the policy committee meets and goes over it, or are you wanting it, because we will bring it when it comes to the board, but are you talking about before then?
I mean, before we enact the change that's suggested.
Okay.
However that works best.
Okay.
And
Yep.
a lot of those are available on the KSB website too. I've clicked on them when we get the emails, like the weekly or biweekly emails too.
And the ones right now that we're working on, we can call them. Like, there's been a couple of times where I went, that doesn't sound right. Let's call and ask, just based off of experience with the policies in the past, so.
I'll take one for the team and read this.
Thank you, I really appreciate that.
Yep. If you're ready. Okay. I move to retire policies IIBG, JBD, JBH, JCDB, JCEC, JDDA, JFAB, JFAC, JFA, JFB, JFCA, JGA, JGFB, JI, JJ, JQA, JQE, JQL, KB, KBE, KGC, and to approve the updated and new board policies IIBG, JBD, JBH, JCDB, JCEC, JDDA, JDDAA, JFB, JFCA, JGA, JGCBA, JGFB, JI, JJ, JQA, JQE, JQL, KB, KGC, and GAT with changes as submitted. Handbooks will be updated accordingly to match new policy revisions for the 2024-2025 school year.
I will second that. I think Leslie deserves a round of applause.
We have a motion and a second. Please cast your vote.
Motion passes 6-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next item is item 9A, future board calendar dates. We have this Friday night, Emporia High School homecoming, so I hope we're all at the game cheering on the Spartans. We have a regular meeting on October 9th at 6 p.m. The Emporia Rec Center Steering Committee will meet on Tuesday, October 15th at 7:30 a.m. at Mary Herbert Education Center. And our second board meeting in October is on October 23rd at 6 p.m. here at Mary Herbert. Item 10A, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please cast your vote.
Motion passes 6-0.